Mark on the bike. Maybe.
All right. If everyone would extend their hand in prayer, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, I ask that you please be with Elizabeth. Please use her to speak your word. I ask that you take away her stress and her anxiety, replace it with your guidance and your peace. I ask that you please be with all of us here, that we may be receptive to your word, and that we may truly venture towards the truth. In your most heavenly and precious name we pray. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
So I'm praying. Good.
Yeah, you're
I don't remember there's a camera on me now. It's weird. Alright, so over the last few weeks, what have we been talking about? Not you. Gender identity. But more specifically, what are we just identity, right? Like, we're going to get into why it's more identity tonight. So, we've been discussing our roles as men and women in the world as general. We have been looking at what it means to be equal, what it means to be different, why we need each other. Each one of us is created equal yet distinct. This talk is going to kind of wrap it all up into our greater purpose. That's why it's called greater than, like D. So we're greater than our simple stereotypes or the gender norms or roles that the world puts on us. Now there's a lot of confusion and chaos and division caused by the many opinions about everything, whether it's suggested solutions for the injustices of the world or just opinions about the injustices of the world. Everything from gender equality to racism, everyone has an opinion on how they can fix it or why it exists or any opinion whatsoever. And it's hard to even navigate through the stories, opinions, or suggested actions that crowd our social media, our lunch tables, our dinner tables, our life as we walk down the street. It's all thrown at us, and we might find ourselves lost, confused in a sea of voices, and we're not sure who we're supposed to be listening to. However, there is one simple, and truly it is that simple way to get past and through these issues. And it's to see each other as human beings first, and all other identifying markers second, third, fourth even. God gave human persons an intellect, will, and passions. Our intellect allows us to know what is true, while our will allows us to make good choices about that truth. Our passions or our feelings are the emotions that move us to not only act in one way, but to not act in another based on what we think is good or bad. In my very first talk, I told you that God created a natural order or law to the world. Before the fall, all these things worked properly together. Our will, our intellect, and our passions all lined up perfectly. Then, the fall happened. And the whole natural order of things got distorted. We knew God and ourselves perfectly before, but now our desires and our knowledge of self and of God have become distorted. And we struggle with big questions like, who am I? And what am I supposed to do? And why am I here? We now don't see ourselves as God's creations or how He created us, but as broken things that need to be fixed, as sinners who constantly are struggling. Our passions became disordered, and we became more inclined to choose the feelings that are the things that feel good, or rather are easy to choose, whether they're what's best for our soul or, all of mankind. We've become selfish, whether we mean to or not. This whole semester, I'm sure you have been waiting on one of us to come up here and tell you, hey, this is how you talk about gender identity, and this is how you're supposed to be a man, and this is how you're supposed to be a woman. Well, I'm not going to do that. Because there's too many differences. There's no specific way to talk about it. There's no specific man. There's no specific woman. We are all created very unique and all have a very distinct purpose. Society puts enough pressure on us and our personalities to be what they see is right to be a man or right to be a woman or wrong or whatever. The only way you need to be and the only way you need to see others is in the way in which God created you and to fulfill the purpose that He has set before you. Because we live in a fallen world, we struggle to clearly see our purpose and find our identity in God. Jesus came to point us back to who we are and extend the invitation to relationship with God through our baptism. Now, we talk about baptism a lot. For you seniors, how many times have I told y'all about baptism? Like 1,000 by this point. Hey, guess what? We're going to talk about sacraments in the next couple weeks. We're going to talk about baptism again. So quick. Baptism, we gain our identity. And it's no longer just as a beloved creation of God, made in His image and likeness, but as an adopted son or daughter, created in His image and likeness. Matthew 16:13-18 reads, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, He asked His disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? They replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. But what about you, He asked. Who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it. As Christians, we receive a new name, just as Peter did. And we get this at our baptism. It's been spoken. Our parents, when they bring us up as tiny humans, they go, hey, what name did you give this person? And they say, Alex, Chris, Kerrigan, Jonathan, whatever your name is. And it makes us into and integrates us into this Christian maturity. And it's our task to keep that going. Jesus wants to set us free from everything that keeps us bound or confused. But we first have to know that He can. We have to have faith that He's our Savior. And through our baptism and ultimately our confirmation, we also pick another name. Fun facts. We take on our true identity that is not defined by anything more than our place in the adopted family of God. We accept our truth, as we accept the truth of our identity, thoughts and actions that are not aligned with that truth come to light. And it's okay if the truth causes tension in your life. It's absolutely okay to wrestle and struggle with it. Our feelings or passions are never a sin. Sin is choosing to act out on disordered feelings and impulses when we have them. Jesus promises to give us the grace to make choices that lead us toward our ultimate happiness and freedom. But freedom is not just doing whatever we want. As much as it would be cool to stay up all night, do whatever we want, never listen to our parents or the law or whatever, that's, how purge happens and the world ends. So we need to have structure. Freedom is the ability to act on what is true and good. We speak constantly about building our relationship with Christ. This is how we keep an eye on the greater purpose and on what is meant to fulfill our identity as a child of God. When we build our relationship and we follow things well, things do not become instantly easier. Many times the way of Christ may seem less satisfying than the instant gratification that's offered through following the whims of our feelings or what the secular world tells us is correct. through following the way of the cross, Jesus' death and resurrection, we have the grace to resist sin and the effects it has on our lives. The cross is greater than the largest temptation we'll ever face. It leads us to a great freedom and allows us to serve our greater purpose as a child of God. The problems and the great questions of the world are not something that we are going to solve today. And understanding our true identity does not fix the world's view on what men and women should be. When you understand your identity fully, you do create one less obstacle in your life. You can see that you have a greater than existence. What the world calls us to is selfishness and hate. And we as children of God are called to community and to love. Many of you, I am sure, like myself, become uncomfortable when talking about our beliefs and faith, or even about being a child of God. You don't want to alienate your friends or your significant other or your family, or even strangers. But it's not a bad thing to talk about these things. And you're not forcing your beliefs on someone when you have a conversation with them. When you are sharing your thoughts and opinions, that's just what you're doing. You're sharing. Don't be afraid to have a conversation, whether it's with your friends or your family or a stranger on the street. God is not just the God of Catholics. He is the all-powerful creator of the universe, and he is the God of everyone. Whether you believe in him or not, he still loves you. He still made you, and you are still his creation. He still has a greater purpose for you and calls you to true freedom. The greatest thing that he wants for each one of us is to be happy. And the greatest happiness comes from when we fulfill our purpose that he has laid out before us. So I challenge you on the very first night to figure out who you are and what your purpose as a man or a woman is. So tonight, I want to ask you that same question, but change it just a little bit. Who are you, and what are you going to do to fulfill your purpose?
So now we're going to put in this longer.
Yes, so what I want you to do is get into your regular